"Turn the car around. Now," my husband whispered. I decided to trust him, and the person holding our daughter's hand wasn't just family, it was her biological father. The man I told everyone died before she was born. And he'd been at our family barbecue for 3 hours, watching his daughter call another man Daddy. I thought it was going to be one of those perfect Saturday afternoons where everything just clicks. You know the kind: sun shining, kids laughing, that golden hour lighting that makes even your most dysfunctional relatives look like they stepped out of a magazine. My sister-in-law Rachel was hosting her annual summer barbecue, and for once, we weren't running late. Emma, our 9-year-old, had been excited about this party for weeks. Not because of the adults or the food, but because her cousin Tyler would be there, and they were planning to debut some elaborate dance routine they'd been practicing over FaceTime. She'd packed her art supplies too, because Emma never goes anywhere without the ability to create something. My husband Jake was in one of his good moods, the kind where he actually helps carry things from the car without being asked. We'd been married for 6 years, together for 8, and he'd been Emma's dad in every way that mattered since she was 3. The adoption papers were finalized 2 years ago, but honestly, he'd been her father long before the courts made it official. Rachel's backyard was already buzzing when we arrived. The usual suspects were there: Jake's parents, who still treated me like I might disappear at any moment despite years of holidays and birthdays; Rachel's husband Mark, manning the grill like it was his sworn duty. Their 3 kids running around with the kind of energy that makes childless adults question their life choices. "Mom, can I go find Tyler?" Emma asked, practically vibrating with excitement. "Sure, baby. Stay where we can see you, okay?" I watched her run toward the cluster of kids by the swing set, her art bag bouncing against her hip. That's when I noticed him. A man I didn't recognize sitting at the picnic table, talking quietly with Rachel's neighbor Bob. Nothing unusual about that. Rachel was always inviting people from the neighborhood, co-workers, friends of friends. Her guest list was usually a beautiful chaos of people who barely knew each other, but somehow made it work. The stranger was pleasant looking, maybe late 30s, early 40s, the kind of face you'd forget in a crowd, but not unpleasant. Clean-shaven, wearing a polo shirt and khakis like he was heading to a PTA meeting after this. He had this careful way of sitting, like he was very aware of taking up space. I was helping Rachel arrange desserts on the kitchen counter when I first felt it. That prickle on the back of your neck when someone's watching you. I turned around and saw him through the window, and for just a split second our eyes met. He looked away immediately, but there was something in his expression. Not creepy or threatening, just intense, like he was studying me. "Who's the guy talking to Bob?" I asked Rachel, trying to sound casual. "Oh, that's David. He's new to the neighborhood. Moved in a few streets over about a month ago. Bob invited him, said he seemed lonely." She shrugged, balancing a tray of brownies. "Divorced, I think. No kids." No kids. For some reason, that detail stuck with me. When I went back outside, David was crouched down talking to Emma, who was showing him something in her art bag. The sight stopped me cold, but not for any reason I could name. He was being perfectly appropriate, keeping a respectful distance, hands visible. Emma was chattering away, completely comfortable, which should have been reassuring. She's usually shy around strangers. "Your daughter's incredibly talented," David said when I approached. His voice was soft, careful. "She was just showing me her drawing of what she wants to be when she grows up. An artist and a veterinarian. Right, Emma?" Emma beamed. "And a mom. But mostly an artist." "That's a perfect combination," he said, and something about the way he said it made my chest tight. Jake found me 20 minutes later, standing by the fence, watching David interact with the kids. Not just Emma, but Tyler and Rachel's youngest too. He was good with them. Really good. natural in a way that made me uncomfortable because I couldn't pinpoint why. "You okay?" Jake asked, following my gaze. "Yeah, just... Do you know anything about that guy? David?" Jake studied him for a moment. "Number why? I don't know. Something feels... off?" I nodded, grateful that Jake understood without me having to explain. It wasn't anything David was doing wrong. It was more like he belonged here. Like he fit into our family gathering in a way that felt too natural for someone who was supposedly a stranger. "Emma really likes him," Jake observed, and there was something in his voice I couldn't read. "Yeah. Too much? Maybe?" We watched as David helped Emma retrieve a marker that had rolled under the picnic table. The casual way he moved, the protective gesture as he made sure she didn't bump her head. It was fatherly. And that word in my head made everything suddenly, terrifyingly clear. "Jake," I said slowly, "look at how he moves with her." "What do you mean?" "Look at his hands when he talks to her. Look at how he anticipates what she needs before she asks." Jake was quiet for a long moment, watching. David was now sitting cross-legged on the grass while Emma showed him her entire art collection, piece by piece. He was giving her his complete attention, asking questions that made her light up. "It's like he knows her," Jake said finally. "Yeah, but more than that. Look at Emma." Emma was animated in a way I rarely saw with adults. She was leaning against David's knee like she'd known him forever, completely trusting. And David was looking at her like she was the most precious thing in the world. "She looks like him," Jake said quietly. My heart stopped. Because once he said it, I couldn't unsee it. The same dark hair that curled at the edges when humid. The same way of tilting their head when concentrating. The same habit of biting their bottom lip when thinking. "That's impossible," I whispered. But even as I said it, I was doing the math. Emma was 9. 10 years ago, I was a different person entirely. 10 years ago, I was 22 and thought I knew everything. I was working at a coffee shop downtown, saving money for art school, dating a guy named David Martinez who made me laugh until my sides hurt and wrote me poems on napkins during his lunch breaks. David Martinez, who disappeared one day without explanation, who stopped answering his phone, stopped showing up to the places we'd planned to meet. I spent weeks thinking I'd done something wrong, replaying every conversation, every kiss, every fight. I found out I was pregnant 3 weeks after he vanished. By then, I was angry and hurt and terrified. When people asked about the father, I told them he died in a car accident. It seemed easier than explaining that he'd simply left. Easier than admitting I had no idea how to find him or even if he wanted to be found. David Martinez, who had the same quiet way of speaking, the same careful posture, the same hands that were now gently helping my daughter arrange her artwork on the picnic table. "Sarah," Jake said, and his voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. "Sarah, we need to go." "We can't just leave," I said, but my voice was shaking. "If it's really him, if he's really, then we figure it out. But not here. Not with Emma in the middle of it." Jake was right. Whatever this was, whatever conversation needed to happen, it couldn't be at a family barbecue with children present. I looked across the yard at Emma, who was now teaching David some complicated clapping game, both of them laughing. The sound of their laughter together made something crack open in my chest. "Turn the car around. Now," Jake whispered urgently. "Get Emma, casual. Don't make a scene." I walked over to them on legs that felt like they might give out at any moment. "Hey, sweetheart," I said, proud of how normal my voice sounded. "We need to head out, remember? We promised Grandma we'd stop by." Emma's face fell. "But I'm not done showing David my pictures. Maybe next time," David said softly, and when he looked up at me, I saw recognition in his eyes. He knew that I knew. Thank you for being so kind to her, I managed. She's. He paused, his voice thick. She's wonderful. You've done an amazing job. The word you've hit like a physical blow. Not you both. Just you. The moment we were in the car, Emma chattering in the back seat about how nice David was and how he promised to teach her how to draw better hands, Jake reached over and took mine. Are you okay? I couldn't answer right away. My mouth felt like it was full of cotton. Mom? Emma's voice from the back seat. Are you crying? Just allergies, baby. Jake squeezed my hand tighter. Is it him? I nodded. David Martinez? Another nod. Emma's biological father? I think so. God, Jake. I think so. In the rearview mirror, I could see Emma had put her earbuds in and was drawing in her sketchbook, oblivious to the earthquake happening in the front seat. How sure are you? 90%. Maybe 95. The way she responded to him, the way he looked at her. I took a shaky breath. I need to be 100% before we do anything. That night, after Emma was asleep, I did what I probably should have done 10 years ago. I looked him up. David Martinez wasn't hard to find once I knew where to look. LinkedIn showed he was a graphic designer, recently relocated from Portland, recently divorced. His Facebook was mostly private, but his profile picture was definitely the man from the barbecue. But it was his Instagram that broke me. Scattered among photos of coffee and sunsets were pictures that told a story. A children's book opened to a page about a little girl who wanted to be an artist. Art supplies, the expensive kind. A photo of a playground with the caption, "Wondering." And then, posted just 2 days ago, a photo of Rachel's street with the caption, "Home feels different than I expected." He'd been planning this. He'd moved here deliberately. Jesus, Jake breathed, looking over my shoulder. He's been looking for her. Or me. Or both. Jake was quiet for a long time, then. What do you want to do? I stared at the screen, at this man who'd given Emma half her DNA and then disappeared before he even knew she existed. I don't know. The next morning, Emma was at the kitchen table eating cereal and sketching when she said, David gave me his phone number. I nearly dropped my coffee mug. What? Yesterday, when you went to get the car, he said if I ever wanted to show him more of my art, I could ask you to text him, but only if you said it was okay. She looked up at me with those enormous dark eyes, David's eyes. Can I, Mom? He knows so much about drawing. Jake and I exchanged a look across the kitchen. Maybe, I said carefully. But first, Mommy needs to talk to him about some grown-up stuff, okay? Is he in trouble? No, baby. Nobody's in trouble. Sometimes adults just need to have conversations about complicated things. Emma nodded solemnly, then went back to her drawing. I looked down at what she was sketching. It was David, sitting on the grass, smiling. She'd captured something in his expression that I'd missed yesterday. He looked peaceful, happy, like he'd found something he'd been looking for. I texted him that afternoon, while Emma was at her friend's house and Jake was at work. This is Sarah. We need to talk. He responded within minutes. I know. I'm sorry. I can explain. Coffee shop on Pine Street, 1 hour. I'll be there. I sat in my car in the parking lot for 10 minutes before going in, hands shaking, practicing what I was going to say. But when I saw him sitting in a corner booth, nervously turning a coffee cup in his hands, all my prepared words disappeared. He looked older than I remembered, more tired. There were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before. When he saw me, he half stood, then sat back down like he wasn't sure what the protocol was for this situation. Hi, he said when I slid into the seat across from him. Hi. We stared at each other for a moment that felt like it lasted hours. She's beautiful, he said finally. She is. She looks like you. She looks like you too. His smile was sad. I was hoping you'd say that. Why did you leave? The words came out harsher than I intended. David's face crumpled slightly. I didn't want to. God, Sarah. I didn't want to leave. Then why did you? Because I was an idiot. Because I was scared. Because I thought I wasn't good enough for you. He rubbed his face with both hands. My dad got sick. Really sick. Cancer. I had to go back to Portland to take care of him. And I didn't know how to tell you. I didn't know how to ask you to wait for me when I didn't know how long it would take, or if he'd even. So you just disappeared? I was going to tell you. I was going to explain everything. But then my phone got shut off because I couldn't pay the bill, and when I tried to find you at the coffee shop, they said you'd quit. I didn't know where you lived. This was before everyone was on social media. I looked for you, Sarah. I looked for you for months. I felt tears starting and fought them back. I was pregnant. I know. You know, I figured it out. The timeline. Her age? He took a shaky breath. Is she mine? The question hung between us like a bridge we both had to decide whether to cross. Yes. David put his head in his hands and just breathed for a minute. When he looked up, his eyes were red. I have a daughter. You have a daughter who has a father. A good one. Jake adopted her legally 2 years ago. I know. I'm not trying to. I don't want to mess up what you've built. I can see how happy she is. How loved she is. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. I just wanted to see her. To know she was okay. So you moved here? You've been planning this? I've been thinking about it for years. Ever since my dad died and I started trying to find you again. It took me 3 years to track you down. When I found out about Emma, about Jake, about the life you'd built, I almost didn't come. Why did you? Because she's my daughter, and I've already missed 9 years. I thought maybe if I could just see her once, just know what kind of person she was becoming, it would be enough. And is it? Enough? He was quiet for a long time. She asked me to teach her how to draw better hands. What do you want, David? I want to know her. I want her to know me. But not if it hurts her or confuses her or messes up her relationship with Jake. He leaned forward. I don't want to be her dad, Sarah. She already has one. But maybe I could be something. Uncle David. Family friend. Art teacher. I don't know. I thought about Emma's face when she talked about him. The way she'd lit up. The drawing she'd made of him. This isn't just about you, I said. This affects Jake. It affects Emma. It affects our whole family. I know. I know. Jake's a good man. The best man. If we do this, it has to be his choice too. David nodded. What can I do to make this easier? I don't know if there is an easy way. That night, after Emma was in bed, I told Jake everything. About David's father being sick. About him trying to find me. About the years of wondering and searching. Jake listened without interrupting, his face getting more thoughtful with each detail. So he didn't just abandon you, Jake said when I finished. Number he didn't. And he's not trying to take Emma away? He says he's not. Jake was quiet for a long time, staring at his hands. What do you think? I think Emma deserves to know where she comes from. I think she deserves to have all the people who love her in her life, if it's possible. I reached for his hand. But I also think you're her real father, and nothing will ever change that. I'm not worried about that, Jake said, and I could hear the truth in his voice. Emma knows who her dad is. What I'm worried about is doing the right thing for her. Which is, I don't know yet, but I think we should meet him. Together. Figure out what kind of person he really is. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. Maybe you've never been through something like this. Or maybe you've been carrying something even heavier in silence. Tell me in the comments, have you ever trusted someone only to find out everything was a lie? Or had to protect your child from a past that showed up without warning? I'd really love to hear your story too. And if this video made you feel something, don't forget to hit like. It truly helps the channel. And hey, if you want more stories like this one, make sure to subscribe. Because here, we don't pretend families are perfect. We tell the truth.